When Bob and Lisa Cranmer made a lowball offer on this Century home near Pittsburgh, they expected some haggling.
And it was like, sold. I said, wow, okay, that's great.
A dream come true for the former councilman and his young family.
Countless times I can recall as a child standing on the sidewalk, just staring at the house.
6 fireplaces, 3 stories, with one terrifying secret lurking inside. Although in the beginning, it seemed harmless.
The radio would be on. Water would be running in the sink. Things that you kind of got used to.
Bob says the unexplained activity continued for 10 years.
It had untied the rosary bead and put it on a hook.
Then suddenly intensified in 2003.
We'd wake up on a regular basis with scratches and bite marks. This thing was out to hurt us.
Bob and Lisa turned to the Catholic Church, hoping a priest could bless the property and solve the problem. But instead, he says, everything escalated, turning into an all-out war between good and evil.
And welcome to a new episode of the Brohio Podcast Show. I'm one of your co-hosts, the delicious Nicolicious. I'm here with
the other guy, Rob Dog.
Rob Diggity Dang Dog.
Oh, yeah.
Rob Diggity Dangle Dog.
Dangle.
How do you like Dangle Dog, Rob Diggity?
I like dangle. I like it when it's dangly.
Don't know what it's like. If this is your first time listening to the Brohio Podcast,
we're sorry.
This podcast is done in the shower while we scissor with each other. And if you don't like that, then you can go fuck yourself. And if you're still here listening, we appreciate you listening. We are very thankful for our listeners and how cool they are.
Aren't we?
How funny you guys are. How receptive you are to our dirty humor.
I'm eating Tutti Frutti.
Tutti Frutti. Those are not edibles.
No.
Those are candies from Sweden. From Annie Freiberg.
Yep.
We're still popping them. We're still eating them, slinging and dinging.
There's some winners in this bunch of candy.
There are. There's some really good candy in there.
There's also some that made me want to kill myself.
Some that tasted like you were trying to remove your genitals with a rusty butter knife.
Definitely.
Speaking of removing your genitals with a rusty butter knife,
ooh, you have me.
We have 2 live shows coming up.
Holy shit, we still have those going on?
Yeah. It's not on the script here, Rob.
Okay, yeah, we're going to wing it.
One of the live shows is going to be October 20th.
Ooh.
That one's going to be at the Lucky Star Brewery in Miamisburg, Ohio.
Yeah.
How much are tickets for that one?
If you want to give us money, you can, but there is no cost to get in. You can hang out with us and the ever so beautiful Hunter and the ever so handsome Haley from Murder and Such. It's going to be a great time.
It is going to be a wonderful time. That's going to be a very intimate setting.
Yeah, we're going to be up and close with us.
We're going to be completely naked.
Yeah. We'll even loop arms and share a drink with you.
We're going to do a science experiment to see how many golf balls you can fit inside of an inverted penis. We're taking bets. If you think you know how many golf balls you can fit in an inverted penis, write us at brohiopodcast@gmail.com. Let us know.
I'm ready to prove you wrong. You're undershooting whatever.
And if you are curious as what the penis you're working with looks like, go to pornhub.com and type in Brohio Gangbang, and you'll see it. You'll see all of it.
It's there.
Most of it. It's it's cavernous. It's hard to see all the way up in it. We also have a live show October 27th. That's going to be with Twisted Philly, Dina Marie, and Hillbilly Horror Stories.
Oh, man, I was just thinking of the letter you sent.
Jerry Horse Dick Polly. Yeah. So one of the coolest moments in all of podcasting is when we got the new Patreon subscriber.
Yeah.
The Hillbilly Horror Stories.
Mm-hmm.
They joined our Patreon, which is completely, that's an ode to, that's the ultimate show of respect from another podcast to join your Patreon.
Absolutely.
And part of the club that Jerry's in, he gets a free sticker. So I mailed him a sticker to his place of employment.
Which I don't think we knew it was his place of employment at the time.
I don't fucking care.
Hey, that's what you get.
I come to party, like, do cocaine and get naked, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So I addressed the envelope to Jerry, quotations, Horse Dick Polly. No, Yeah, horse dick Polly.
Yeah, that's right.
And apparently the mail lady, she thought it was wonderful. She said, do the curtains match the drapes? He's completely bald. He said, yeah, they do. And she said, is it true? Is it true? And he said, I don't know. You'll have to ask the guys from Ohio about that.
That was such a good post. Whenever I saw it, I was like, damn it. It's so good.
My bad, Jerry.
Yep, that's at Firehouse Grill.
Sorry for your internal organs, Tracy.
And that's in Blue Ash,
Yeah,
Ohio.
That's going to be $10. You just do a little Google search, Eventbrite / just type in Eventbrite, Ohio. It'll be the first or second thing that pops up.
Yeah, well.
The one you can't buy tickets for, that's from a year ago. The one you can buy tickets for, do that shit. $10.
It'll be a good time.
It's going to be
We got a
good time.
private room. We can get naughty. It's, hey, we're going to have fun.
This is how we do it. And I got an article for you, Rob.
Alrighty.
A man masturbated. That's it. That's the end of the A man masturbated in front of a Topshop window while staring at the mannequins.
Aw.
Listen to this guy's name. Ocean? Osian. We're going to call him Asian.
Let's call him Ocean.
Let's call him O-Dog.
O-Dog, okay.
O-Dog Winters, 24 years old, was seen rubbing his penis while staring at the display in his local branch of Topshop in Carmarthen Town Center. When tracked down by the police, he told officers he has a thing for mannequins.
Who doesn't?
And could not help what he had done. Swansea Crown Court heard Winters has a history of sexual offending, including pleasuring himself in the view of his neighbors performing a sex act on himself in a caravan park and exposing himself to children on a popular coastal path.
That's not cool.
You had me.
It's all cool until children are involved.
I was fine with all of it until I seen he was jerking off at a caravan park.
Yeah, that's rough.
The kid thing didn't bother me. The caravan thing, that really upset me. Dean, and the funny thing, the prosecutor, his name was Dean Pulling. I didn't make that up, Rob. That's true. His last name Pulling.
No pun intended.
Yeah. What are you doing? I'm trying to pull this mannequin's arm off so I can finish checking off. Dean Pulling prosecuting said CCTV footage in Carmarthen Town Center showed Winters standing outside St. Catherine's Walk branch of Topshop in the early hours of August 3rd this year. The prosecutor said Winters was seen rubbing his genitals over his trousers while looking through the window.
He was over his trousers, so that's not that
deal.
bad.
You got a fucking itch, you got a scratch, dog.
Right.
That's what's up. Winters then walked away, but was noted to still be rubbing himself. I don't quit. I get up. I don't quit. The description of the suspect was passed to police, and Winters was located around 15 minutes later in Darkgate. Where the fuck do you people live at that you have places called Darkgate?
It's so weird, yeah. Carmarthen?
Yeah. When questioned by police, he said, "Okay, boys, will admit it. I have a bit of a thing for mannequins. When I saw them, I started playing with myself. I could not help it."
How dare they kink shame this man?
The court heard it. That is, in a subsequent interview, the 24-year-old told police he was aroused by mannequins and could not resist the urge to do what he did. Winters of Guildhall Square, Carmarthen, had previously pleaded guilty to outraging public decency when he appeared in the dock for sentencing on Tuesday. The court heard he has 9 previous convictions for 21 offenses, Rob Dog, all for sexual offenses or breaching court orders related to his sexual offending. Sounds like a fun guy, honestly.
I mean, he can't help it. He likes the way that the denim feels like rubbing up against his uncircumcised cock.
Jeez. They don't circumcise over there, do they?
No.
I don't know.
No.
He previously had been given a caution for outraging public decency after performing a sex act on himself in a caravan park. I mean, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? I'm done with this article.
Man.
What kind of weird things do it for you, Rob Dog?
Shoot, I don't know.
If we could see what was in your private browsing history,
You'd probably be let down.
what would confuse us?
What would confuse you? Furries.
Furries. I don't even know what that is, but it sounds like fun. You say furries or Furbies?
Both.
Because if you looked in mine, you'd see mature, natural cats have sex in suburban backyard.
That's the worst noise ever.
It is. Now, believe it or not, we are only 10 minutes into this episode, and we don't have a whole lot more to talk about for the front end of this episode.
We got our patrons.
Fuck them. Good thing you caught that, Rob.
I did.
Go ahead and start them out on the one that's highlighted that's really hard to read.
I was gonna say, I can't even read that. First, it looks like it's Kate Mailman Allen.
Kate Mailman Allen.
Good for her.
Mailman doesn't deliver on Sunday, but good thing it's Monday or Tuesday.
Whatever.
Josh Kitchen, thank you for your pledge, sir. I think Josh has been a pledger before. I'm not sure. That name sounds familiar, but nonetheless, Josh, thank you for your continued contributions and support of the generation of Ohio podcast.
There you go. Corey Payne, thank you very much.
Ian Neary. That's not Ian Query. That's Ian Neary. Thank you, Ian, for your Patreon pledge.
And then the mononym Tim. Thank you, Tim.
Tim was a small boy. Thank you so much, Tim, for your Patreon pledge.
And Dan Brown.
Now, there's something in the works here. There's something brewing. Rob and I were just talking about here.
All right, brew it.
There's a casting service that reached out to what we initially thought was just one of us.
Yeah.
And then we did the interview, and they went to speak with both of us. It's in reference to a cryptoid, I guess a cryptoid show, where the two of us get dropped off on the side of a fucking mountain, and they say, go find him, boys. Bigfoot, he's here somewhere.
Do we get any weapons?
Well, I said, so my biggest concern is I need fucking food. And this guy's like, we're not gonna put you in harm, okay? I said, all right. As long as I'm fed, I'm right.
Because wild pigs are a thing, and those things are fucking vicious.
The only thing I cry over is food.
Or drop bears. I'm worried about drop bears.
Goddamn koalas. And I told him, I said, you guys are looking for Bigfoot and shit. That's all it really is a fucking pig or something. It's nothing to get up in arms about. But nonetheless, there's the consideration for Rob and I for a major network television show to be contestants on this show. Rob has to call him and show him his beautiful face, as I did today.
Gonna scare him away.
But they're interested in the bros of Brohio about climbing mountains and finding cryptoids.
I gotta stock up on wipes.
That's what my wife said. She said, well, how's Rob gonna go camping when he can't go anywhere without his fucking dude wipes?
I gotta bring a portable shitter because I can't squat behind a tree.
I said, you guys are about to see what it's like for a grown man to not shit for 2.5 weeks.
Oh, it's gonna be rough. I'm not meant for the woods.
Can't wait. These people will probably call in bomb threats if we have a missing episode, though, like they did last time.
That was rough.
They're in the Pacific Northwest hunting chupacabras, but we would like a Jeffrey Dahmer episode, please.
Another one.
Hello, my name's Dan Brown, and I would like to... I'm calling AppleCare because I can't figure out how to erase the Brohio podcast off my iPod.
These 2 weeks without the Brohio podcast has been the best 2 weeks of my life. I no longer have to see these imbeciles talking about eating their own excrement.
Excrement. I don't even know what that is, dude.
I don't know. But, yeah. Thank you, Dan Brown. You're a fucking cool guy.
You fucking fuck. In the beginning of this episode, you heard one gentleman in the interview by the name of Bob Cranmer.
Yeah.
He was the owner of the Demon House of Brownsville Road, a.k.a. the Pittsburgh Demon House, a.k.a. the portal to Dayton, Ohio, a.k.a. there is no more names for it.
Yeah.
But this man, okay, so sometimes we get a lot of paranormal stories. We tell the story, and then me and Rob turn the microphones off and we're like, yeah, stupid fuckers. But this is a prestigious man.
Yeah.
He's a politician, which means nothing in this world. He is very prominent in the Catholic Church in that area. He's got his own. He was executive of an engineering firm for a long time. He runs his own company now. But you can talk to certain people and you can get a vibe. We've already done the interview.
Yeah.
You can talk to some people and you're like, okay, this person's a fucking Looney Tune. We talked to some demonologists one time. Didn't use the interview because they were fucking Looney Tunes. And if you guys are listening, I'm sorry. You need to try harder next time. But Bob Cranmer, I did not get that.
He's a man of the people.
He is a man of the people. He's a man of his story.
Yeah.
He was anxious to tell his story. He's got a lot of trials and tribulations he's gone through. He's experienced some heartache. He's experienced some horrible shit from this fucking house. But he's been there through every step of it. And he's written, and they say, when they're like, oh, who jacks off with vegetable oil? And they're like, well, Nicolicious wrote the book on that. Well, Bob Cranmer wrote the book on the demon of Brownsville Road. He really did write a book.
There you go.
I didn't write a book about jerking off with vegetable oil. I just do it.
But you did read his book, though.
Like Colin Kaepernick and Nike. I just do it, okay?
All the memes from that are so great, by the way.
Yes, they are. And for $4.99 in the Google Play Store, I purchased the book, The Demon of Brownsville Road. And let me tell you, I've got the attention span of a fucking retarded 40-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
I can't pay attention very long. This book had me from beginning to end. It weaves an awesome tale. It's a true story, and you will get invested in the characters. You'll get invested in Bob Cranmer and his family, his sons, his wife. You'll be tied up in the story, which is what you want in a good book. So I highly recommend checking out the book that we got our research from. Just hop on Amazon there. It's only $5. What have you got to lose? It's a good book. It's a quick read. It took me about 2.5 days. About 6 or 7 pages long.
There's a couple pictures you got to color in the middle.
There are pictures at the end. There's good pictures. You're like, man, this place is fucked up. So let's quit beating around the bush.
Hi-yo.
Or if you are into that type thing.
We don't judge you.
Yeah.
Bush or not.
I'll beat the bush. Speaking of the bush, I've been watching a lot of porn lately.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it's never really...
I've been making my own. I've just been watching myself. Critiquing myself, leaving horrible comments on it.
Yeah. What? I like to make my own videos of myself and upload them on YouPorn, and then leave comments about myself.
Yeah,
about how huge my wiener is, even though you can't see it in most of the video.
Nice dick.
Yeah. Oh man, look at that penis on that guy. Bet he does a podcast. Look at his wiener. Look how velvety smooth his wiener is. Because my penis doesn't have wrinkles on it.
There's not a dingleberry hanging from that ass.
My penis looks like an Oscar Mayer hot dog. That's how smooth it is.
This episode was just too much for me.
Yeah.
They were describing each other's wieners.
And as goes with any story we cover like this, we are covering a lot of dark energy and demonic activity.
Yeah, we are.
So many think, and we've given you the precursor before, that opening your mind to these kind of things could potentially lead to things like this invading your own life. We are not spiritual guides. We are not professionals. We are not paranormal experts. We are not demonologists. We do not last longer than 2 minutes in the sack with our wives. So just that bit of warning before we start here, okay?
Well, let's be honest. All you're going to do is sit around and watch Netflix anyway, so live your fucking life to the fullest. Invite a demon into your life.
Let it come in. And I'm really going to try and summon one at this Lucky Star Brewery thing.
We're going to talk him into it.
We want to do a Ouija board experience.
Even if we can share a beer with one, I'm fine with that.
Share a man.
They can eat a quesadilla out of my ass.
I'll
I'm fine
share
with
a man with it.
Hey.
Speaking of sharing men, I'm going to take a drink of this Angry Orchard real quick. All right. And like I said before, this week we are covering the Demon of Brownsville. And how fitting that Brownsville is right outside Pittsburgh. Hooday, motherfuckers. And then if you stick around to the end of this episode, you will hear the full interview with Mr. Bob Cranmer, who he so graciously gave us the interview that we desired.
Yeah.
First person we've interviewed with the fucking Wikipedia page, I know that.
Hi-oh.
Yeah.
We're moving up.
This is the story surrounding the occurrences and demonic activity that took place at, what's your address, Rob? 3406 Brownsville Road in Brentwood, PA.
You almost got me there on that one.
I know, you almost did it.
I did.
And that is just outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And there is a book, like I said before, we drew most of our research from, called The Demon of Brownsville Road, written by Robert Bob Cranmer. Now, Bob Cranmer, he did buy this house in question in the fall of 1988, along with his wife, Lisa, and his 4 kids. They all moved in. I think his oldest 2 kids were 3 or 4 years old when they moved in, so he had litlins. How old's your youngest?
4.
4?
Yeah.
Fun age.
Yeah.
Fun age. I took the baby to Cracker Barrel today by myself. She's 1.5. Mm-hmm. And I bought her a Cabbage Patch doll, and I was carrying the baby out to the car, and she's carrying the Cabbage Patch doll, and she kept on going. She's looking at the baby, and she'd go, I about dropped my daughter because I was laughing so hard. I was crying. She just kept on trying to put this baby's thumb in its mouth. And she's going, oh. I couldn't even get my phone out. And sometimes you just have to enjoy it. Not film it, not take a picture, just absorb it.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed that Amy Schumer looks like a Cabbage Patch doll?
Yeah, she's got a foul mouth.
You got to look at her. Like, look at her next to a Cabbage Patch doll.
She does.
Pretty accurate.
Sometimes she is majestically beautiful. And sometimes she looks like someone just farted in her mouth. And I can't make a difference there, Rob.
Right. I get what you're saying.
Speaking of farting in people's mouths, I saw a meme today, and I put it on the closed group, Butt Chuggers Anonymous.
Yeah.
It said, it was a guy crying. It says, when you finally get the pussy and it tastes like cabbage water and helicopter smoke.
Yeah, I saw that.
What the fuck is helicopter smoke? What is helicopter smoke? If your vagina tastes like helicopter smoke and you're a listener of the Brohio Podcast, write us an email, brohiopodcast@gmail.com. Connect on Twitter @BrohioPodcast. You can hit us on Snapchat @BrohioPodcast.
Send our friend Ricky a pair of your underwear.
Please do. He's desperate. Now, Jesus Christ. Sometimes we cover paranormal topics with people involved with questionable character, a.k.a. Ed and Lorraine Warhan. Bob Cranmer's not that guy.
Nope.
Bob Cranmer was the son of a retired military officer. He graduated from Duquesne University in 1978 with a fucking bachelor's degree in secondary education and history. He is a history buff. That's why he loved this house so much, because of the historical value of this home. And after college, he joined a strip club. He joined the U.S. Army as an officer, where he was he was a company commander with the 101st Airborne Division. That's where the fucking Rangers are at, Rob.
Well,
I think.
Cool. All right.
If I'm not right, someone's going to write me and tell me how much of a fucking asshole I am.
Do your research, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, join the military, you fat fuck. I can't. I have flat feet and I have an inverted penis. Go to MEPS and try and squeeze through with those problems, you dickhead.
And he's trigger happy.
And I'm very trigger happy. After coming home from the Army, he successfully ran for office and was elected to the Brentwood City Council in 1991. So that starts his
Good for him.
His trudge into political goodness, okay? And he wasn't your normal politician. He fought back against the corrupt police. He fought back about unjust community policies and unjust treatment of black people in the community. He was a fucking man's man. So he wasn't this Ross Perot motherfucker we got in office right now with the tiny penis and the orange forehead. He was a man's man. He was later elected as the county commissioner in November 1995 for Allegheny County, which is home to none other than the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, Rob.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Don't let him... It connects the dots. I mean, it all makes perfect sense to me. And we had a friend go there this week, right?
Yeah, we did. She actually sent us a picture. They give you a certificate. And her boyfriend's reason for committal was deranged masturbation.
I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
But it looks like his masturbating is probably a really hot thing to watch.
I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah. He probably doesn't listen to us, does he?
No. She does, though. But
okay, good.
Hey.
She'll let him hear that.
Yeah.
Now, Bob, he lived near the home in question as a child and always loved the house. And you'll hear this in the interview. He would stand outside of it, and he recalls in his book, he would just stare at this house and take it all in, because this house was hundreds of years old. He just, he had a thing for this house from the very beginning. And how cool is it to be a kid and just stand outside of this, like, it's practically a fucking mansion, and say, God, I would just fucking love to live there someday. And then life comes full circle. Bob plays his cards right, and bam, he's living up in a fucking demon house, fighting off these Satan creatures. I shouldn't say Satan creatures.
He's like a superhero.
Satan creature. He is like a superhero. It's, he left the Army, and by that time he was married. He had his kids, and it's no surprise that he jumped once he had the opportunity to buy this house. His mom called him, and you'll hear in the interview, she said, "Your house is for sale," and he knew exactly what she was talking about. He knew exactly what house that she was talking about. Now this is where it starts to get fucking kinky already. Usually you guys have to wait till halfway through the episode for some kink. No.
Yep.
Here comes the kink.
Shoving that kink in your face.
The owners of the home accepted his initial less than face value offer. Now, he lowballed the shit out of them on the price for this house. They said, okay, no problem. Here you go. It's your house now. That
Your problem.
that step number one
Right.
in not buying a haunted house. If the house is worth, if the house is listed for $300,000 and you're offering $60,000 and they take it, it's fucking haunted, Rob.
Yeah, there's something horrible happened.
There was a horrible prolapse of some type that ended someone's life.
Yeah.
For sure.
They say that's what happened with the Ramsey's house. They can't ever sell that house because of what happened with it.
Really?
Yeah. It's a really nice house. They like it's really undervalued for the area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I know it's been sold, but I didn't know if it was ever.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the house. It looks like the fucking house from Home Alone.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And
Speaking of houses, that motherfucking house.
It's gorgeous.
That's a goddamn plantation, man. That thing's beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And you've seen the internet meme. What the fuck did Kevin McAllister's dad do for a living?
Right?
I don't
Sending
know.
17 people or whatever it was on to Paris and New York.
I got
Good
it.
for him.
Put it on the charge card. We'll get
Yeah.
pizza the night before.
And that fucking ungrateful uncle.
The
Asshole.
Yeah, the night before we're going on vacation, you motherfuckers are all splitting a sack of ramen. We're not ordering pizza.
Yep.
I saw at least $200 worth of pizza right there.
Easy.
And he just maintained. He was fine.
Yep. He didn't care.
Now, the owners, they accepted his initial less than face value offer, and that made him extremely ecstatic because this is the house that he dreamed of his entire life. So he was excited to get in this thing. Now, the prior owner, I know what you're thinking. It's not haunted. Well, there were some Catholic religious items found in a metal box in the yard that the prior owner said, okay, so Bob got the house.
It's such like an odd thing.
Yeah. He got the house and he was planting some flowers. Bob was. He's digging in the ground and he finds a metal box. Okay. And in the metal box is like a fucking rosary and a cross and some other weird stuff.
Yeah, you're gonna want to put those back.
Right. And he still had the contact information for the old owners, and he calls them and he says, hey, what's up with the box full of Catholic shit in the yard? And they're like, yeah, what you're going to need to do is go ahead and put that shit back. Don't call me collect ever again. I won't fucking answer. But put that motherfucking box back.
There's a lot of foreshadowing going on.
There is. Now, this is from his book. I'll let Rob knock this one out of the park here.
From the first moment, Lisa and I always had the feeling that we were not alone in that house. Or that we were being watched by someone or something. I can remember the sensation so clearly. We felt surrounded by the past as if we were almost living in it. That we were only temporary visitors, tolerated for the time being, who would eventually be expelled. That's an awesome line.
It is, dude. He's very articulate and he's way smarter than us. Hence
Not that takes much.
Hence the reason I just said he's way smarter than us. Yes. He's exceptionally more intelligent than us. Yeah, I can do it if I try. I don't fucking try.
Just channel your inner Dan Brown.
Yeah, which he's gonna be a cult on this cult hero on this show.
Yeah, I like him.
He's gonna have his own T-shirt pretty soon. And for him to say he felt surrounded by the past is an understatement. The history on the home and the property can be traced all the way back to 1792, which is the same year the first episode of The Brady Bunch aired on ABC television. No, I got that backwards. Right, Rob?
Sure.
1792, that was the year George Washington was assassinated. He collaborated with several... Stop it, Rob.
Okay, I'm sorry.
He collaborated... The stories were collaborated by several people with historical knowledge of the area and leaders of the Northwest Indian War, and he also had radar scans of the property. It said that on the property, this is how the tale goes, okay, from all the historians, that a mother and her 3 children were murdered by Native Americans. While the husband was away, Native Americans attacked the mom and 3 kids, murdering them and scalped all of them. Ooh, what a way to go out. And these were just, Caucasian, European, white settlers that were trying to settle in the area. The Native Americans weren't fucking having it, especially on that piece of property. So the Indians waited for Dad to leave town, and they killed the wife and all the kids and scalped them. To honor their lives, the husband planted a tree above their grave at the entrance to the property. So while searching the internet and the National Archives reading old war documents, he came across a letter from Isaac Craig, the commander of Fort Pitt, to Secretary of War Henry Knox, dated March 31st, 1792, during the Northwest Indian War. I think it's so cool that this stuff is still around and that you can see it. The letter referenced the wife of Deliverance Brown, who was killed with her 3 children. So there was historical data referencing a murder by Native Americans in that area. So this isn't just something that was like, oh, yeah, about 120 years ago, there was an old woman up on the roof, and there was 3 guys, and they gangbanged her till her fucking asshole fell out, and they died. She died, and they cut her up, and they fucked her again, and then they fucked her after they cut her up, and then they put her in a trash can, and now she haunts the house. You can see her feet and her toes floating around because, they chopped her up, so she's not still there all the way. She floats around, and sometimes late at night you can just see her old pussy floating around, and you grab it. She'll let you use it, but she's a ghost, so it feels different. You ever run like really cold water over your penis hole? That's what it feels like to have sex with a ghost.
I think I might actually like that. Sign me up.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd like this, but I like it a lot. It feels really good.
Now, this was they could pinpoint this happening. So that just adds to the mystique of this haunting, okay? There's shit that happened that can be historically tied to this location. And you think that would be enough to just cause an all-out Armageddon of a fucking haunting. But no. There was a lot more than that. Now, the historical data said they were terrorizing settlers to keep them from moving into the area.
That's rude.
It is very rude. So, Native Americans blame on the white people. I mean, sure, we were trying to take their land, but they didn't have to be assholes about it. Honestly. Cutting our kids' heads off and shit.
They did get casinos out of it.
They got a lot of really good casinos. They're rich now. Fucking.
They all get to go to college for free.
Yeah.
I sound so, like...
I don't know anything about Native American
I have
stuff.
yeah, I don't either.
All I know is anytime there's a kid in my school with brown hair, they'd be like, my mom says I'm 1/6 Cherokee. I'm like, my mom said you're fat.
The only thing I know is that anything involving Native Americans, usually there's a haunted history.
Yes, they cause a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Anytime you put an Indian in the ground, they fuck the shit up above it.
Yeah, they do.
Same goes here. But Cranmer hired a ground-penetrating radar company to come and check out the area around the tree. Now, the tree was said they believe that this is where the wife and the kids were buried. The results of this GPR showed a man-made 11 by 6 foot disturbance at the base of the tree. The company's report said the findings are consistent with an excavated gravesite with what appears to be the remains of objects 4 to 5 feet down from the surface.
Oh.
And Cranmer, Bob, said he didn't want to disturb that. I can completely respect that. That all but solidifies that there is something down there, someone's remains.
Yeah, definitely.
So right off the rip here, we have something that has happened. I believe that this is traumatic enough to perpetuate a paranormal environment.
Definitely.
But this is absolutely not the only thing that's happened here on this property that could potentially contribute to the things that happened to the Cranmer family that we will speak about shortly. Now, during the building phase of the house, an unpaid worker placed a curse on the property for some...
Pay the man.
This is kind of... But he did some more digging here, and a lot of the stuff I learned after I wrote the research for this episode. This worker was not only underpaid, he was an immigrant, but he had the fucking hots for the owner, the owners that were building the house, had a smoking hot wife, and this fellow had the hots for her.
Well, maybe he should have married a less attractive woman.
Yes, well, she was a Dan Brown. She said, I'm not giving you the time of day.
Ah, okay.
And he said, fuck this place. I'm going to put some chicken bones and some goat blood in the basement.
Bim, bim, salabim.
Yeah, fuck
You're
it up.
cursed.
Arabiana. You must not touch the lamp. I fucking love Lion King, dude, so much.
Oh, man.
So during the 1920s and the 1930s, God damn it, Rob, this is so fucked up. During the 1920s and 1930s, they burned the house down with Harry Houdini inside of it, and he died. That's part of my research that's made up. A doctor by the names of James C. Mahan Sr. started renting a space in the home from the then owners of the home. I think it's pronounced the Maliks.
The Molochs.
Come lick my balls. What are you coming to do? I'm coming to lick my balls. Now, the doctor used the space he rented in this house to perform illegal abortions. At least one mother died from an operation performed in the home, and dozens of other lives were obviously lost by successful abortions. Dr. Mahan Sr. was a limping, profane drunk who was also not a very good doctor, and his wife was often drunk too.
I don't see what she has to do with it, but okay.
Jeez, could you, already, you're going through one of the most absolute traumatic things you'll ever do in your entire life. Yeah. And you lay back and put your legs up in the stirrups, and you're expecting a cool, caring, compassionate person, and he walks in, he's like, I'm sorry I got piss on my trousers, but I'm ready to get that baby out of here. I'm gonna do it.
You see him limping in.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit.
Oh my God, dude. And
I'm gonna die.
Of all the places, in 100 years from now, when abortion's completely illegal, because I think eventually it will be completely illegal everywhere. That's not my opinion, whether it's right or wrong. I just think someday it will be completely illegal to get an abortion in America.
Okay.
What are you thinking right now?
I don't think so.
You think it'll become easier to receive one?
I don't necessarily think it's going to be easier, but I think it's probably going to be right around where it's at.
Okay.
I think it's going to be, depending on state to state.
And don't at all take this as my opinion of what I think is right or wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Write me an email to see what I think, because I don't care to tell everybody, the 12 people that listen, what I think.
I really don't care.
Yeah. It's your body, your life.
Yeah.
Whatever. So let's just take a second and think about all the traumatic shit that's happened here. And I've talked about this before, and I've learned about, and I've definitely delved into it more now that we've done this gay podcast. Energy, okay? So the energy that these traumatic events have created, energy lingers, okay? People may not linger, but energy, to me, lingers, okay?
Definitely.
When you walk into the Holocaust Museum, there's energy. When you think about your grandma, you think about your grandma. But when you go to the National Air Force Museum here in Dayton, Ohio, and you check out the planes that have blood spatter on the seats from the Vietnam pilots that were shot inside of them, there's energy and there's an aura around those certain things. So I am a firm believer that energy hangs around for a long time. And the fact that all of these dozens and hundreds of abortions happen in this place, it's not crazy to think that decades upon decades later that there's all this negative energy still hanging around. I completely buy into it.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely.
That it's created a fucking less than favorable environment for the Cranmers when they moved in. So let's go back forward to while they're performing their initial walkthrough of the property. They were performing a walkthrough of the house with the current owners. Now, Bob, the dad, found his young son, Bobby Jr., crying. Well, they were downstairs, and they were... So this is another one that the research didn't get the part of the book that I would like, but I remember off the top of my head. They are in the basement of this house doing the walkthrough with the family that lived there. Mm-hmm. Oh, shit. I just dropped my beer. Okay.
And there goes our episode. Computer's fried.
They're in the basement, and then Bobby Jr. disappears. And they're talking to this couple about, the house and how big it is and how wonderful and majestic. And then Bob Sr. says, hey, where's my son? And then the people that own the house say, well, it's a big house. I'm sure he ran off exploring. Then the wife of the people that own the house spoke up and just immediately said, you need to keep a better eye on your children. And let me tell you, the quickest way to piss another woman off is to tell her how to parent her fucking children.
Yep.
So immediately there's just like this bad, like hateful aura coming from the people that live there. And they just get this kind of fucking bad vibe from them, okay? So then they hear like crying and hyperventilating coming from the top of the stairs. They go up the stairs, and Bobby Jr., I guess he did have some developmental issues, and he couldn't quite verbalize what he'd experienced in the house that made him react the way he did. But later on in his life, he said, yeah, there's a fucking black thing floating around that scared the shit out of me. But at that time, he's hyperventilating on the stairs. They comfort him. They pick him up. And they're just like, what? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And he can't really answer the question. And the couple that owned the house followed him up the stairs. And I guess out of the, he kind of, under his breath, the current owner of the house said something about, I wish we'd known what was wrong with this house before we bought it too. And Bob heard that and didn't really he was so excited to be in this house, from the house of his dreams.
Right.
That he didn't take into consideration what this guy just said.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, like I said, that's foreshadowing for sure.
Yeah, and it's a really good precursor that you're about to get involved in some shit that doesn't look good when you got a fucking kid just weeping on the steps.
Definitely.
It's like going to a gangbang and there's a kid crying on the steps. You still go in, but you ask some more questions. Like, hey, why is there a kid crying on the steps? I came here for a gangbang.
Did you guys turn him away?
I'm not here to watch Baby Shark. I'm here to watch I'm here to watch gangbang. I do like Baby Shark. I don't like kids crying. That's the worst sound ever. Babies crying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Baby Shark.
I like Baby Shark.
Yeah.
Do you like Baby Shark?
No.
Not at all?
No. Now that I said that's going to be stuck in my head now.
That's fine.
It's okay.
I'm going to open this other beer here. I think we'll save real quick.
Let's take a break. I want to open mine too.
And now the hauntings they dealt with here wasn't all at once. There was little nuances that kind of led up to the fucking grand finale. There was little things that happened that led up to the horrible shit. Like lights would come on by themselves. There's radios that turned on. There was a pull chain for a light in the closet that caused Bob Cranmer more problems than a fucking 70-year-old man with erectile dysfunction. It was a pull chain light in the closet. And every time he would go in the closet, this thing would be fucking tangled up around the light, or kind of, sometimes it would be tied to the actual coat rack. And
it's kind of like when you put your headphones in your pocket.
Yes. And he made it perfectly clear that he wasn't just like yanking on this thing and letting it go and just let it fling up and get wrapped around everything. He would do different experiments. He would turn the light on or off, and then he would let it rest, and he would close the door, and he would fucking sit there, and then he'd go in the closet 20 minutes later, and the fucking thing would be tangled up around the light. So for me, that's poltergeist activity. That's a ghost that says, I haven't got a lot to do right now, so I'm just going to
this string.
Yeah, I'm going to fuck with you. I'm going to fuck with this house. The ghost would turn the water on and just let the water run. So for me as a father,
what a dick.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
The electricity, letting it run, the water. And I talked to him about this in the interview. They were actually chalking this up to a classic style haunting, just a friendly ghost, something you dealt with and kind of put at the back of your mind, almost like a poltergeist type haunting. Things would happen. They would be like, oh, that's just Casper playing games again. That's just Casper making the walls bleed. No, that's some Hail Satan shit right there, okay? Now they started to hear like it got a little more a little more violent. They started to hear loud footsteps throughout the home and loud, violent banging coming from inside the walls. Now, let me tell you, Rob.
Yes.
I watch a lot of stories, read a lot of paranormal stuff.
Uh-huh.
And one thing that scares the shit out of me is when people have things living under their steps or in their walls.
Yeah.
And don't know about it.
It's terrifying.
That is fucking horrible. Rob scared the cat.
I scared his pussy.
He scared the cat. Now,
Poor thing.
there was one incident where the kids got a little older. They were almost teenagers, I think. And there was a pocket door in the almost like a pantry style.
Yeah.
And the kids were in the other room and they heard this pocket door in the pantry just start fucking just banging. And they went in there and there was obviously nothing. So then there was like a foyer through the pocket door. If you kept on going through the pocket door, there was like a foyer that opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And they went in there to see if there was that was like a dead end. There was nowhere else for whatever made that noise to go.
Yeah.
And the kid's like, well, fuck this. We're going to go see what it was. So they proceed into the foyer, and they said as soon as they walked into the foyer, it was like a fucking meat locker. Like they could see their breath, like teeth chattering cold, and there was nothing around. Just, just the sound of that banging door that led them in there. There was a staircase nearby. And this is where it gets fucked up. The son went back to the bedroom or went back to the living room, wherever, and said, fuck this. But the friend hung around. He's like, I'm going to check the stairwell. So he checked, and when he opened up the stairwell door, this black figure, like cloud floating entity, was at the top of the steps, and it just fucking harpooned right at him. Just flew right at him.
Yeah.
It went right through him. He didn't know what it was.
I would have dumped.
It says in the story that he shot himself.
Yeah, I would have dumped.
And the only thing that this friend can say about describing this entity, this paranormal being, was he said it was the Grim Reaper. It looked like the Grim Reaper. It moved like the Grim Reaper. It was the Grim Reaper. And the Grim Reaper, man, that's a scary looking dude.
Yeah, it is.
And it's just like a prepubescent kid to see something like that. That would be enough to stunt your penis growth. So that kid probably grew up to have a micro penis.
That's how that happens.
Yeah.
So I've been told.
And if Neil Denver, you're listening, write us and let us know how that worked out for you, buddy.
Hi-oh.
We're worried about you, about
Gotcha.
that ghost going right through you and causing the micro penis.
It's okay. It happened to a lot of people.
Yeah. Sorry. It's scary. Then, like most hauntings, the kids started to have things happen to them, and they saw things before the parents did. So, Bobby Jr. refused to sleep in his bedroom. Instead, he would sleep in a closet with the light on.
He would sleep in a closet instead
Yes.
of a bedroom. Okay.
And this specific room, the blue room, we're going to get into more a little later, but this fucking blue room, dude, it reminds you of room whatever it was in The Shining, or just the absolute epicenter of all the demonic activity. Also around this time, a ghost began to make its presence felt, sometimes as a black, foggy cloud, and sometimes as a stench. And Bob Cranmer, he speaks in great detail about the smell this fucking ghost would make when it was around. It smelled like burnt rubber and sulfur. And he could... and this is terrifying to think about. Like, my fucking hair on my neck is standing up. He could follow this demon around the house by its smell. He could fight with it, like, praise be the name of God, and, fucking throwing holy water on it and holding crosses up at it. And he would literally fight with this thing, like follow it around the house, chasing this smell. And the smell was not isolated to a certain... So, like, if someone does not wash their fucking balls or their armpits and you walk up to them, they fucking stink, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Come over here right now and get a whiff of this juicy man berry. And if you want to take a big slurp on this berry, you can do it.
Okay.
you can follow that person around, and as long as your nose is in that person's vicinity, you will smell them.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
And if they move away, the stink moves away. And that's what was happening with the smell of this demon. He could follow it around the house. So he would go in the bathroom, and the demon wasn't there, and there was no smell. But then he would find the demon in the blue room and start fucking fighting it with the, scripture and prayers and saying the Hail Marys and the rosaries, and it would flee, and he could chase it to the other rooms, and that's how he found it, is he would follow the smell, and he would corner it in corners of the room, and it was almost like it was like a physical confrontation almost, which is horrible to think about.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah, I don't know what I would have done. That's wild.
Yeah. Now, Bobby later wrote in his own words a story about his personal, because the book is written by Dad, Bob Jr., but Bob Sr. Bobby Jr. Gave his dad a story about what happened to him, and I'll let Rob play Bob Jr. here.
I was in 5th grade, and I had stayed home from school sick.
He's an adult when he wrote this. So.
Okay. I was in 5th grade.
I was in the motherfucking 5th grade. I was fucking bitches and getting money.
I was in 5th grade, and I had stayed home from school sick. My mom took all my siblings to school, and then she went to the pharmacy. I was in my room in bed looking out the window. I heard a strange noise, something like bagpipes playing. The noise got louder and louder, and then my door to my room opens, and this thing comes into my room. It was made out of what looked like static, or lightning bolts, in the shape of a kid's body, but with no face.
This is Roddy Piper, the bagpipes.
It's Jonathan Davis from Korn.
Are you ready?
No, I'm not! Please, no! Not again! It then seemed to hop or skip into my room, stood at the foot of my bed, and then it went back out the door. I stared at the door, and then this dark figure that I could only compare to the image of the Grim Reaper ran past the door. As I stared at the door in shock, I saw a hand stick out of a black robe on its arm. As I'm staring at the hand reaching into the doorway, I pull my blanket over my head in terror. Then the blankets were ripped out of my hands and flew to my feet, folded perfectly. I look up and there was another figure floating above me. It was looking down at me. If you took a human body and turned it into a light bulb, that's what it looked like.
Jeez.
There were no facial features, just a light bulb person. I closed my eyes and screamed really loud, and it all stopped. I lay in bed until my mom got home, but didn't say anything. I felt total terror, like I was going to die. When I later told the story to the priests, they said the small entity that came in first was a ghost or a spirit. The larger, evil entity in black had under its control, and it was all designed to terrify me. However, the glowing entity over my bed apparently was a guardian angel that had intervened to protect me, and that ended it. The whole experience was terrifying, and I didn't feel there was an angelic being there at all. It was all horrible.
Fuck that.
Yeah, that's just that description of like a person
And-
in lightning form.
And he had,
wild.
Unfortunately, Bob did tell us that one of his sons has since passed away, which obviously our hearts are with him for that. I'm not sure if it was this specific son, but I know two of his sons, Charlie, the youngest, and Bobby Jr., they did deal with a lot of mental health issues. They were dealing with bipolar disorder. I know Charlie was dealing with some cutting and stuff like that. So there was just a lot of and you immediately jump to, okay, there's something chemically wrong, which no, it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It could be this fucking house and the demonic activity that's going on. Now, all of this accompanied with the foul stench that would linger at times, pardon me, led Mr. Cranmer to believe that something of great spiritual warfare was going on. From what I can tell, Mr. Cranmer was loosely Catholic at this time, which I think he did tell us. And he started to keep rosaries around the place. He would also keep crucifixes around. Now, I was reading about how people use rosaries to combat demons,
Mm-hmm.
and I read a lot of fucking terrifying stuff about using rosaries to fight off demons. How it's not a very balanced way to do things, but it can work, but it can also be turned against you. They were finding the crucifixes that they would lay around. They would find them the next day. They would be fucking bent in half, like they were put in a vice grip. Not just, a little chip in the paint. These things were fucking folded over like tacos. Speaking of tacos, Taco Bell is delicious. Those $5 boxes are on point, Rob Dog.
Yeah, they are.
Now, as far as the black manifestation that we've talked about a few times,
That's racist.
it is very racist, but the prior owners said their dog would follow around an unseen presence around the house. And
We've talked about this throughout a lot of the hauntings.
Animals know what's up, man.
Yeah, the animals and kids.
Now, at this point, there's an increasing amount of problems between the family. His wife and his son were diagnosed and hospitalized for severe mental health-related issues. One night in 2003, his son attacked Bob, and police responded to the incident. Bob was actually arrested and charged for the incident, but charges were later dropped. Possibly a coincidence. The morning after their fight, where he was arrested, they had an elderly aunt that was staying upstairs that they were kind of looking after. She was discovered dead in her room the morning after the fight. Now, in terms of the fight, Bob was he went into his bathroom, and his son had completely fucked up his bathroom. He left all of his shit out. There was, dirty clothes all over, and then he just goes to his son and says, "Hey, what the clean the fucking bathroom up after yourself." Typical shit that every dad says to their kids.
Definitely.
Clean up after your ass, okay? And his son just charged him, just attacked him, knocked him to the ground, and Bob, flipped him and proceeded to get into that ass, okay? Just like any good father should do. And
Oh, yeah.
the police were called, and he was taken to jail, but charges were later dropped. Now, in my research, this is when I thought this is when he reached out to the church, but he said in his interview, he reached out to the church after his son was in his bedroom and a fucking CD was thrown like 100 miles an hour. There was a compact disc thrown from, there was no one around, there was no one there. It went past his son's head so fucking fast that it shattered against the wall. The CD did.
Oh, wow.
And there was also like burn marks on the CD. So
What?
that's how you know you're listening to too much Corn. Right there. But right here it says, sorry, I got a turd in my throat or something. It was at this point Mr. Cranmer said he needed the help from the church because it was his belief that he was dealing with a demonic entity. Father Ron Lingwin was assigned to the case by the Bishop of Pittsburgh, Donald Whirl. Now, the initial blessing from the priest, they went through this fucking house. Okay, these priests come and, dump their water on it, whatever they fucking do as priests. The fucking wall started to bleed, Rob. Not the ceiling, where the ceiling meets the wall. There's blood that was running down the walls. They took samples of this blood and took it to a science lab, and the science lab, it came back inconclusive. They couldn't tell what it was. They had no idea. It didn't test for blood, and it didn't test as any other foreign substance that they could test for. So they had no idea what the substance was that would randomly come from the cracks in the ceilings and run down the wall in all the rooms that they tried to bless. Now, this is from the book. Some of the areas where the blood was dripping were so far up, over 9 feet, that a person would have had to have used a ladder to get there. Another interesting aspect was that it was only on the walls and not on the ceilings, so that if it were thrown up there, it would have been impossible to miss hitting the ceilings. It looked as if the walls are bleeding. After that, they would say mass and bless the house. It would have like the demons would have these temper tantrums and turn all the pictures sideways on the wall and move furniture. Now, this would be the morning after they would conduct mass and bless the house.
Maybe they were just interior decorators in their past life.
Right. Oh, I hate this fucking picture.
The feng shui in this room is off.
And another thing, when he was talking to the people that owned the house before him, when they're walking through the house and the prior owners are showing the house, Bob's like, oh, this living room's great. And the old owner's like, yeah, it's awesome. We've had mass in here before. And then just left it at that. Like, why the fuck? Hold on, bruh.
Yeah, so you're telling me.
Hold on, motherfucker. You mean to tell me you had your motherfucking asses up in here having church in this motherfucker? You ain't gonna tell me what? It's because there was demons up in that motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a direct correlation between its anger and the religious symbology and the religious ritual that the Catholic Church was using. I can tell you we did come out on the other end. My wife and I are now very strong Catholics. I think we couldn't help but do that because we were experienced, and without the church and without their help, who knows what have happened. Those are Bob's words. There was a room in particular that caused even more evil incidents than all the other ones.
Here we go.
This is the blue room, okay?
Dabba-dee-dabba-die.
Now, what would happen in this room, they have some historic correlation, is it was a brothel, and guys would go in there and jerk off right until they're about to come.
And someone would throw down a mannequin.
And then they would fucking throw smoke bombs in there
Mm.
and make him fucking hightail it out of there with blue balls. In the actual story, the blue room had blue wallpaper with a blue rug. That's it.
Okay.
End of story. Nothing cool.
Okay, that's better.
It was at one point used as a bedroom for one or more of the boys, and anytime they were in there, they refused to stay in there. Something felt very off about the room, and Bob claimed it was the epicenter for the demonic activity surrounding the room. Now, Bobby Jr. stayed in there, and when he was living in there, that's when he was having his biggest crisis moments, okay? With his bipolar and his lashing out. There was just something about that room specifically that was fucking dark and twisted.
So something traumatic probably happened there.
Well, in the book, he reached out to one of the priests of the church, Father Ron.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big player in the book, and he calls Ron to get his help, and then Ron calls him back, and Ron says, you know that bedroom at the top of the steps on the left? I'm like, yeah, the blue room. He said, you have something very bad going on there. And he also went on to give him really detailed instructions, like go to every corner of the house and pour salt in every corner.
Right.
And walk around the house. There's a window with there's an antique mirror at the top of your steps on the right hand side. You need to cover that mirror with a black drape. And Bob is like, what in the fuck is going on? I have no idea how he knows all of these things about your house, about my house. Mind you, Father Ron has never been in his house before. He's just, fucking telekinesis, Kyle. He knows everything about this fucking house. And Bob can't figure it out. But Father Ron was his biggest advocate as far as fighting this thing. And he would say, okay, Father Ron, when are you going to come here and help me do this? And Ron said, in due time, I will be there, but I cannot be there right now. I've been directed by people with higher connections to God than I have, that I cannot go to that house.
Wow.
Yes.
That'd be very reassuring.
Yes. And in the end of the book, he details there was a Catholic intuitive, a woman that was in the church, that the police, she was ridiculed at times for certain things, but there were times that the police tapped into this woman. She knew she was like a fucking a psychic, essentially. They call her a Catholic intuitive, but she knew everything about this battle that Bob was fighting with the devil. She knew exactly what this house looked like. She knew everything that happened in this house up to this point. There was a wood-burning furnace in the basement that Bob had to go down and feed this fire all the time. He had all kinds of fucking problems down there. But she said, in this blue room upstairs, there was a man that lived down the street. He lived in a house about a block away in a greenhouse, and he wore white gloves, and he had a cane and a limp, and he was a drunk. And he would limp down to your house that you're in right now, and he would abort babies, and he would use that blue room as his exam room.
Ah.
He would then go into the hallway, the bathroom across the hallway,
And take shits. Horrible, horrible shits.
He would climb up on the toilet and do a big old upper decker. And he would flush that motherfucking thing 7 times, get it all chopped up, stinking like a big old bucket of stew.
He clogged that toilet so many times.
Said his assistant would take the whatever, the shit you get after you abort a baby.
The remains.
The blood, and he would dump the blood down that bathtub.
Oh, man.
So she said that she saw blood, and all she saw in that bathroom was blood. So the aura and the darkness that was coming from this blue room and this bathroom across the hall. And there was another bedroom right there where fucking Bob, he talks in the interview, he would go in this room and he would literally fight with this fucking demon all night long. He would scream scripture at it. He would just go round and round with this thing. Just like exhausting periods of pure terror. The Catholic intuitive, she also said, you have a wood burning furnace in your basement. And he said, yes, I do. And he never actually spoke to Connie, is her name, during all this. She was relaying this to Father Ron, who was confiding, that's who Bob confided in. They were talking. She said, there's a wood-burning furnace in the basement. That is where they would take all the remains of the babies, and they would put them in the wood-burning furnace, and they would burn the remains. So then he had that area of the home that was completely infested with fucking demonic activity as well. So he's literally getting it from all angles of this house. The only place that was safe was the 3rd story. And he had an older daughter that moved out, went to college. She came back. She moved in upstairs. And he said, I'd be happy to have you up there. It's safe up there. I feel okay about you living up there. She had a husband that moved in with her. One night, he was walking upstairs to go to bed, and he passed the baby's room, which the way I read it, they had the baby sleeping upstairs with them on the 3rd story. But he passed the room where the baby was at, and there was a dark figure, like a long black-haired figure, bent over the waist, like in the crib.
Oh, no.
And he looks in the room, and he says, why? He thinks it's his wife. And he says, what are you doing up this? What's wrong with the baby? The instant he said, what are you doing with the baby? This thing, this black entity, went into the wall, into the crawl space, like passed through the crib, through the wall, into the crawl space.
No, thank you.
No,
that baby's tainted. You can keep it.
Or the baby, at that point, and he goes to Bob and he says, "What the fuck is going on in this fucking place?"
Naturally.
And Bob says, "Well, hold on 1 second here. This place is a little bit haunted. I'm going to be honest with you. How much are you paying in rent, dickhead?"
Right, exactly. What do you expect?
What do you want? So he says, "We'll deal with it in the morning." So that next morning, he calls the church again. He says, "Hey, I need fucking reinforcements." And there was an ongoing pattern here of where they would get 3 and 4 priests at a time at this house, and these motherfuckers would lace up their lingerie or whatever they wear under their little priest outfits, and they would go to war with this thing. There was another incident where Bob was in the kitchen and his daughter was upstairs in the 3rd story.
Mm-hmm.
She called and said, Colin is the grandson. She said, Colin's coming downstairs, so keep an eye out for him. He's 2.5. He's coming downstairs to visit with you guys. They hear Colin just screaming for absolute murder. So then they run to Colin, and he had stopped on the second floor. Most of the demonic activity in this house had been isolated to the second floor, where the blue room, the bathroom, and that other bedroom was. Colin was in front of the blue room, balled up, screaming bloody murder, and saying, "The monster's going to get me, the monster's going to get me." And at that point, Colin had no idea about anything going on in that house.
Is that like around the same spot that the kid, when they originally showed the house, was at?
No, that where he was balled up on the stairs crying during the walkthrough.
Yeah.
That was at the top of the stairs going from the basement to the first floor.
Okay, from the basement up.
So Colin, what he saw was in front of the blue room.
On the second floor. Gotcha.
Yeah. And they attribute being able to eradicate the demons in that area, they would turn on Passion of the Christ. Terrible fucking movie. They would turn it on in these rooms and let it play. Just, never turn it off.
Was that the CD that got chucked through the room?
I want to say it was like a Cannibal Corpse CD or some shit like that.
That would do it.
Because he said that his sons were like painting their nails and wearing makeup and doing like the death metal fucking all black eyeliner and shit like that.
Cannibal Corpse is where it's at.
Yeah. There was also an incident in the kitchen where Bob Sr. is just, he's chilling in the kitchen, and then Bobby Jr. is in the living room, and he sees this dark, another Grim Reaper style figure just kind of float into the kitchen and through the door. And then he jumps up and says, "What the fuck is going, I fucking saw it, I just saw it." Bob stands up, he smells the sulfur, smells the burnt rubber, starts chasing this thing through the house again, and just another night of completely fighting with this thing. And when they had the problems on the third floor with the son-in-law seeing the figure in the crib, that night, Bob, that next night, he cleared it out, and he stayed on the third floor. He said, "I'm going to," for 3 nights, he stayed on the third floor to sit up all night and pray and try and drive this thing out. And the first night, he said the fucking outside, just thundering and lightning, and the rain is pouring. And he just starts, praying to this thing. And there was several different times in the story where they would have bad nights with this demon, and they would wake up. They wear crosses around their neck to protect them. And they would wake up, and these necklaces would be off, even though they couldn't fit over their heads. These necklaces would be off and reclasped, next to the bed and shit like that. Now that night that he was on the third floor, he was setting his alarm over and over and waking up and just fucking going at it with this thing. And he finally fell asleep for good, and he woke up and he had 3 claw marks down his neck. And that was there towards the fever pitch. They were all waking up, and the sons were waking up with like bite marks in their stomach. The wife was waking up with puncture wounds as well. So there was a lot going on. There is so much. If you just Google this, you're not going to get a 16th of the actual things that happened in this house. You have to read the fucking book. It's a fantastic book. But they now taken from Rancor, which they did a little segment. The demon they blame this on was a demon by the name of Moloch. Whatever the cause of the spiritual attacks on the Cranmer's family, he believes that the evil manifested itself as a demon named Moloch, a shadowy creature who appeared in a black fog and would fill the home with a dank stench whenever it appeared. Dank. Now, according to Cranmer's book, Moloch spent most of his time in the blue room, and if you passed by the lair, he would lunge out at you. So I think Moloch was probably like a really big fucking asshole.
Sounds like it.
"Hey, guys, get in here and smell one of Moloch's farts. Get in here to come in here. I just had 3 fucking onions and a tub of moose tracks. You come in the blue room. You pussies come in here and smell my farts. I don't know. You call it the blue room. I'm going to turn it into the green and brown doo-doo room. You fucks come in here and smell my shit." That's what they're smelling, was Moloch's farts.
The burning rubber was him on his 10 speed just riding really fast.
"I listen to my music without headphones. I don't fucking care."
Ding ding. You hear it? Great. Hitting his little bell on his bike as he's riding through.
I just ate 3 onions and 2 tubs of moose tracks. Come here and smell my farts. Fuck you, Moloch.
What a dick.
You Moloch my nuts, Moloch. Now, we spoke down about the monster will get me story, which was next in my notes here. After one of these incidents, Bob went into the blue room, and this is from the book. He says, "I went into the blue room and said it in a loud, firm voice. I've had enough of you. You are a coward going after a child." And this is after
Shots fired.
Yes, this is after he found his one grandson curled up, screaming to death. Said, "You're a coward going after a child." In my mind, I could almost hear it laughing at me. Why would it care if I called it a coward? It was all about hurting, terrorizing, and if possible, killing innocent people. I felt foolish, and at that moment, impotent against it. I realized it had accomplished its purpose. It had scored a direct hit on me and was probably standing there laughing at me. When the then stench wafted over me, I knew it had just experienced a major victory. I can't smell more shit. I just had 16 White Castles and a big old tub of French vanilla and cherry cordial. I pushed real hard this far, I'll shit all over this blue room. And you fuckheads will have to get a new blue rug.
Turn it into the brown room.
Turn the blue room into the doo-doo room.
Oh, Moloch.
That's a Moloch shit right there. Curled up like a fucking unicorn horn. Moloch makes beautiful shits. Tired of you guys making me out to be a fucking asshole. God, Moloch. My name's Bill Wilkins and I'm 73 years old and I died my own shit. There's only room for one demon on this podcast, and that's Bill Wilkins. Rob Dog.
Yes, Mr. Wilkins?
How come every time I come here, Nick never talks? Hold on a second. I can defend myself, all right? You know why I like coming here so much, Rob?
No, I don't. Why?
Because I know every time I come here, there's a good chance I'll get my salad tossed by one of you fucking fruitcakes.
I don't want to do it again this time. It left the bad taste in my mouth last time.
Disrespectful.
It really is. I can't wait till we kill him off.
You ever fucked a swamp donkey, Rob?
Yes.
That's nasty.
Yes, I have.
Okay, he's leaving.
Okay, good.
See you, Bill.
See you later.
One of these days, he's going to walk out here for the last time, and we're not even going to know it.
He's 73 years old, and he acts like that.
Yeah.
That's, in my opinion, very immature.
I can't hold him down.
Okay, so to explain Moloch, Moloch was one of the false gods that Israel worshipped during its periods of apostasy. One of the practices of the cult that worshipped Moloch, this is really fucking fucked up, Rob, was to sacrifice their children. Of course, this was forbidden by God's word, and they had a giant metal statue of Moloch. He was like, had a fucking elk head and a like a Val Venus body. He was really fucking hot.
All right.
The ancients would heat up this metal statue, the idol. They would heat it up with fire until it was glowing. Then they would take their newborn babies and place them on the arms of the idol and watch them burn to death.
That is absolutely horrible.
That's the worst thing. And it was documented in the Bible, so you know it's real.
Very true.
Very, very true. The first sighting of Moloch was in the Blue Room. Bob's son-in-law saw the black figure towering over one of the smaller boys while laying in the Blue Room. I told you that story.
Yep.
He shot into the fucking the crawl space. There's scratch marks, foul odors.
Does this happen to be one of the crawl spaces like I have in my kids' room?
Nothing will ever be that scary.
Because you know they have that one by the closet.
Fuck that noise.
Yeah, I've opened it one time and that's it.
Yeah,
it stays locked.
Yes, thank you. Now he did decide, Bob. He started to fight back. Cranmer and his family lived in the home for 18 years, and in that time they tried a variety of ways of fighting back. Now this is taken from Ranker.com, but achieving little to no results. Bob's main course of action was to read passages of the Bible out loud whenever things became too hairy. But he admits that he would also shout at Moloch when he became frustrated with the demon's attacks against his children. God
damn it, Moloch!
I was in there trying to take a fucking Moloch shit. You guys are out there making all that goddamn racket. Trying to get in here and someone come here and smell one of my farts. Imagine living your whole life and no one ever telling you how bad your farts stink.
He's a one-upper.
Just that smells like burnt latex and gerbil hair.
Moloch is a one-upper.
You know why my asshole smells like burnt gerbil hair? I like gerbil shoved up my ass.
I love the elaboration there.
Moloch. At one point, the family started wearing crosses around their necks to protect themselves, but Moloch even found a way to pervert their faith. Everyone in Cranmer's family saw good results from wearing their crosses, except for his son Bobby. Bobby's cross had a way of removing itself while he slept and moved around the room. Cranmer claimed that every time they found the cross, it would be curled up with its clasp closed as if someone were removing the small chain from over Bobby's head. Now, this happened multiple times, but finally Bobby found the cross folded in half as if it had been placed in a vise and bent with pliers. Whew. Jesus Christ. Now there was their youngest son, Charlie. His cross got taken off one time while he was sleeping, and they couldn't find it. Eventually, they found it in between the mattress and the box spring.
Okay.
There was
right next to the porno and the double dong dildos.
Yeah. There was one. Eventually, it reached the point where this demon was leaving a sludgy foam all around the house.
Snail trail.
A snail trail. You know when your pussy gets really infected and you start leaking juice?
Happens all the time.
Yeah, one time my pussy got so infected that I started leaving snail trails all over the house and they thought it was a goddamn ghost. I had to clean that shit up. That's just my pussy juice right there. You ain't got to sip on it, boy. Just clean that shit up. God damn. Ain't you ever cleaned up pussy juice before?
Good old ghost goo.
That's a Moloch fart. That's what comes out of my ass when I make a Moloch fart. And the wife, when she cleaned it up, she said the fucking shit smelled like birthing, like
amniotic fluid.
Amniotic fluid and piss. So not only is Moloch floating around farting out Ben and Jerry's,
He's popping out babies.
He's like, oh, I'm just gonna take a piss on this rug right here. You're not gonna like the way it looks. Gonna smell right on par with how my attitude is. So he was pissing on the fucking floor. But what a fucking horrible thing to smell like. Like,
yeah, that's pretty
of all
descriptive.
The smells to say, oh, that smells like...
You smell like amniotic fluid.
That is such an aroma I can't forget. I don't know what that smells like.
I don't either.
I had the mask on in the operating room, and I would breathe... Dude, I was numb whenever I had my kids.
Yeah.
So. Oh, but there was... The climax of the story here is he got all of these priests together and they did mass in the basement because Bob Sr. had finally, thankfully, eradicated the demon from the top stories of the house. He
Hallelujah.
Turned on the Passion of the Christ in all the rooms. His wife had the idea to put up mirrors in front of the TV so the demon had to see Passion of the Christ from all the corners of the room.
He's fucked.
There was a paranormal team that came in from Penn State. They investigated. They had a clairvoyant as well that said there's something in the middle of the house that is fucked up. You need to figure out what it is. They ripped out the wall in the closet where the light was having the problem with the pull cord.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sealed off area, and in that sealed off area, they found some of their kids' fucking Legos. They found old playing cards, and they found drawings from the family that lived there before them. Mind you, this sealed off area, there was no way to get to it. There was no cracks. There was nothing. So they thought that this was probably the epicenter for the demon, where it was collecting things from the family, and somehow the fucking entity was taking these items back to, its lair underneath the steps, which would be the reason why there was so much activity with that light. There was also one day Bob was digging outside and he found, he ripped away a board near the foundation of the house and found a 4x6 room. They went down and checked in the room. There was nothing in it, but they found a log with someone with a German name on it. Turns out that was probably linked to the immigrant that cursed the home. Whenever he did the cursing, he left that log behind, that piece of wood behind with his name on it. He didn't really think any of it at the time. He kind of just discarded the log, and then one day he went down to work on the fire in the basement, and the log was at the bottom of the stairs, the 2x4. He picked it up, and in claw marks, someone clawed out the name that was written on the 2x4. So there was claw marks that had raked on the... Hadn't seen this 2x4 since he fucking got rid of it 2 years before that.
Wow.
But there it was, laying at the base of the stairs, near the wood furnace, with the name scratched off. And he reached out to a clairvoyant or an intuitive, and they said, yeah, that was the immigrant that cursed the place. And that the house down the street that we spoke about, and he talks about it in the interview, where the doctor lived, he went to that house when he was a kid to do like a knock and run. And when he knocked on the door, it like fucking flung open by itself, and nobody lived there. So he did have like a little paranormal incident at the house where that doctor lived at down the street. And the intuitive from the Catholic Church did connect that house down the street to the house they were living in. So it all kind of came full circle. But the fever pitch, the final moments, they got all the priests in the house, and they're performing mass in the basement, and they're going through everything. The dog got really unrestful, and they brought the dog down, and they finished mass. And then I think this was the first time Bob saw the black figure float right in front of him and go bury itself in the coal room, like in the back corner of the coal room. And that's when he said to Father Michael, who was another priest in this story, he said, "It just passed in front of me. We have it cornered. It's dying. Let's get it." Yeah. So they corner this demon in the room. The fucking black figure curled up in the wall in the corner, as clear as day, he says. And these priests all they all back this story. They all attest to the facts contained within the story, but they start doing their prayers and stuff. And there was an exorcism performed by a renowned exorcist priest from New York that was performed before this that we didn't really touch on. So there was an exorcism performed on the home, but all of that together, I guess that is what eradicated the demon for good. But nonetheless, a completely fucking crazy story.
It's completely wild.
And it's
I love it.
Yeah, there is just stuff going on all over the place. And if you stick around, there's about an hour interview with Bob Cranmer himself. Long episode. That's what you guys like. You guys like short dicks and long episodes. That's why you listen to us.
Perfect place.
Yeah. You guys like smelling what Moloch had for lunch? All right, Subway, I'm trying to lose some weight, you fucking assholes. So I think the next episode might be the Q&A.
Yeah.
I know we have, but the next topic has already been decided. I have not told Rob yet.
Oh, okay.
Because I haven't had a second to talk to Rob about anything. So, on to the interview with Bob. We appreciate you guys listening.
Thank you guys very much.
Rob loves you very much.
Yeah, we do. I do.
He wants to be intimate with you.
I would love to.
Write us on Facebook for Ohio Podcast. Let us know if you like the episode. Hit us up on Twitter. Our Twitter has no friends. At Ohio Podcast. We have lots of friends on Instagram, so we don't fucking care about that. Check us out.
Yeah, it's worth it.
We love you.
Thank you.
All right, now I'm here with Mr. Bob Cranmer, the author of The Demon of Brownsville Road. Mr. Cranmer, how are you doing, sir?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for having me this evening. Always appreciate an opportunity to take questions and talk about our story.
Yes, sir. Now, before we get going here, I do have to warn you, Rob and I, Rob's not here. It's just Nick, but we're big Bengals fans. And I think from reading the book, you might be a bit of a Steelers fan.
Yeah, it's hard to live in Pittsburgh. It's like a universal religion here in Western Pennsylvania.
Right.
So, certainly.
All right. So I think we can get along for 20 minutes or so here, long enough to do this interview, but we're supposed to be mortal enemies, but I like you already, so I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
All right, now
Steelers have a lot of enemies, though.
They it's because they're good. It's because it's a good it's a good program. It's a good organization. So
yeah,
I guess that's the territory with being winning all those Super Bowls and whatnot. But fortunately, we're Bengals fans, so we don't have to worry about Super Bowls and all that stuff. So. All right, now I did get an opportunity. I finished the book earlier today. I was going to go there's the audiobook route, which is normally a little better for me because I have about an hour commute to work, but I did end up buying the text version, and I do have to say I was captivated from beginning to end. I cannot recommend the book enough. I mean, I really was captivated by it, and which says I have a hard time sticking around for books because I'm just all over the place. But you did a fantastic job telling your story, what happened, and I just want to commend you on the job you did with the book.
I mean, I believe it's one thing that makes this story stand out and is somewhat unique of all the paranormal stories that you either hear about or see on TV and so on that are kind of just snippets of some paranormal activity that happens for a few days or a few weeks. What I tried to do with this book is tell a complete story. I mean, finish to end, where it loops back and even attempts to tell why this demonic activity took place, when and where it did. So a lot of research went into it, not only how it affected our family, I think it affected the community, and also what I wanted to do was tell an in-depth story about who I am, because one of the questions I get all the time is, why would you stay there? And why would you go put your family through this? And I think in order to understand the answer, you have to understand me as a person. So there's a lot of background. There are people on Amazon that put up negative reviews about how there are several chapters into the book before we even touch upon anything paranormal. Well, that's because it reads like a novel.
Right.
And there is a beginning and end. There's a plot. There's a theme throughout it. And a lot of thought and energy went into pulling this whole story together in a way that I think for the more perceptive reader, I'll say that in a nice way.
Yeah.
It holds your attention, so to speak.
It does, and I did enjoy the build up. I felt like I had a connection to you and your family and the main characters, well, the main players in the story, and I'll touch on some of those a little later on. But I'll go ahead and start with my first question here. Now, take us through the strange feelings that this house stirred up for you when you were a child. Not yet even knowing that you would eventually live there, but kind of take us through the kind of things that went through your mind. That gut feeling that you talked about in the book, as far as what you felt when you were a kid passing this place.
Well, I've always, since I was a child, as many people do with their passion or their most centered interest in their life is for me, that's anything history. Sure. I've always, from a young child, been interested in history. And the house in the book, just screams history. I mean, it just has a very unique look to it. It looks very historic. It looks very kind of regal and impressive, and and it looked very much different than any other house in the community. So it not only attracted my attention, and there's not a person really that drives through Brentwood that if you talk to them for more than a moment or so, you can talk about this house and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I know that house."
Sure, I did the Google Street View, and it's sprawling. I mean, it's the gem of that corner right there. There's definitely
it's big. It even had a bigger lot when it was built. The previous owners sold off one of the lots, and someone squeezed a house on it, but it's still big. And but furthermore, there was somewhat of an eerie, magnetic feeling I had towards this house as I used to walk by it as a 7 or 8 year old, going to see my friends. I never once could walk by it without stopping and just kind of looking and wondering what the house looked like inside. And my family knew about my interests. My mother, even as I stated in the book, when we were looking to move back to Pittsburgh, she said to me, "Guess what? Your house is going on the market."
Wow!
Right away, I knew what she meant. My house is going on the market.
Yeah.
Just there was just this magnetic draw I had towards it. I know one of the television programs shows me peering in the windows, like walking up on the porch to look in windows. I've never had that much courage, but I certainly stood out on the sidewalk or the edge of the yard to see what I could. And I know I always wanted to go in the living room and wondered what the living room looked like. And, I obviously eventually did.
Right. Quite a few times.
Sure.
Well, that's quite magnificent how that kind of came full circle. And as far as, I guess, having a similar experience or any type of spiritual warfare or a paranormal occurrence, was there anything that happened to you leading up to that period in your life? Did you have any similar situations? I know there was the house down the street I read in the book, how you kind of had a knock and run kind of deal.
Where everybody knew about that house.
Sure. But
and to answer your question, I never had any paranormal experience as prior to this. I had no real interest in ghosts or anything paranormal. I obviously read stories and so on.
Sure.
My parents bought a country house when we were kids, and the previous owners, the woman, used to keep the house meticulously detailed and clean, and we used to joke about how she would haunt the place because we didn't keep it the same way. We and my brothers.
You lived in it.
I guess I could point to a couple weird things that happened there, but nothing of any real significance.
Sure.
I would say, though, back in the 1960s, and this is the first time I've ever made reference to this, but back in the 60s, there was a movie that came out. I didn't see it in the theater, but I saw it when it was on TV. That really, really scared the bejesus out of me.
Sure. And
probably extended by a few years my ability to sleep at night in the bedroom without my brother with the door closed. And that movie, it was called A Haunting.
Okay.
And it was, I'll tell you, to this day, I'll say it's probably the scariest movie I ever saw, but it was about a house that was possessed, and a bunch of researchers, early paranormal researchers, stayed in this house to kind of figure out what was going on, and it was quite the movie. So that movie really had an impact on me, and it's interesting that years later I would have a similar experience.
Right, that's definitely something I'll put on the list to check it out, because I have a hard time finding movies that scare me, but I'll have to.
Yeah, they did a remake of it back in the 1990s that wasn't as good as the old black and white version.
Fortunately, that's kind of how it normally goes. But
Yeah.
Now, when you finally did, I read in the book about when you guys did the walkthrough, and your son, he kind of had the incident where you guys found him crying on the steps. Now, as a father, I'm a father of 3 daughters, so you get a certain feeling in your gut about different things. You get a certain feeling about certain people, about certain situations. It's just like a fatherly intuition that I like to refer to it as. Now, what was your heart and your head telling you after that specific walkthrough?
Well, I can tell you that I was so excited to not only be in that house, but to actually, and it was everything that I ever imagined,
Sure.
and then some. I mean, when you walk into a house, now it's nothing, but when you walk into one of those old houses, with the 10-foot ceilings and all the woodwork and the giant rooms, it kind of is a little overwhelming.
Yeah, the house kind of tells a story whenever you see something like that.
And I was so excited about not only being in the house, but with the prospect of buying this house.
Sure.
That kind of overruled any feelings I had, and it overruled the misgivings my wife had, which were legitimate.
Okay, what were her concerns?
One, she said, this is crazy. This house is so big.
Right.
And we don't need a house this big. It's 3 stories,
Right.
We just don't need something like this. We need a normal house. And also she said, this house just gives me the creeps. I don't feel good. She had this gut feeling that you just made reference to. And I just overcame it all of her objections by saying, oh, no, we'll love it. It's great. It's what I always wanted. And we're just going to move forward with it. And she came around. But through the book, and I think I made reference to when things started to kind of go bad for us in the community a few years after we moved there. She's kind of pleaded with me at one point, let's sell this house and like get the hell out of this town.
Sure.
It's bad. It's bad. This whole place is just bad. I don't like this house. I don't like what's happening to us. I don't like this town. I don't like the people. This is not a good place. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Now, how about the kids? Have any? Did they have any question marks, or were they kind of along? They saw a big house, and that was the green light for them.
They were so young.
Yeah.
At the time, they really didn't know what was going on. I mean, my son Bobby, my oldest son, my second child, he was only 3 years old. Jessica was 4.
Okay.
I mean, they just went along for the ride, basically.
Right.
And I'm sure to them, I mean, it looked big to me.
Right.
I can imagine what it was like for them.
Yeah.
And they went along with it and didn't really. Now Bobby did later on, as I detail, he had problems with his bedroom. He would not sleep in the bed. He slept in the closet.
Right.
And wouldn't let the priest in the room to bless it either. That was bizarre.
That was
to have a 3-year-old kid standing in front of his bedroom door with his arms stretched from door jamb to door jamb, looking at a priest dead in the eye, saying, "You can't come in this room."
Wow,
that was crazy.
Now I have read a lot of my research now as far as what adults see compared to what kids see. Kids, as an adult, we're trained to see something out of the corner of our eye and say, "Hey, that's just that's a shadow floating by." Where kids, they're not necessarily trained to that, so they see a lot of things. Just like animals, I think animals see a lot of things that we don't see, but kids stop and take notice of the things that as adults we just
that's
float
right.
By.
That's right. And he in fact, as I put in the story, saw a whole number of things as a young boy that were terrifying.
Sure.
He basically knew of this black entity in the house years before we did. And
wow.
At one point, this thing was centered upon hurting children, killing children, and he had a burst appendicitis.
Wow.
He was young, only, let's see, at that point in time, 1989, I guess it was. No, excuse me, 90. So he was about 5 or 6 years old. His appendix burst, and he did not. We thought he had the flu.
Wow.
And finally, he got so bad, we took him to Children's Hospital, and they rushed him into surgery and said, this child has a burst appendix. He could have died.
Then you feel like the parent of the year.
Yeah. And, it all kind of meshes and melds together. Different things that happened, and some things I can talk about and other things I can't, that
Sure.
really were... because things have happened to us and our family since this book was published.
I can imagine.
Kind of horrific things.
Right.
And the family, which I think in a way is evil striking back.
Sure.
This book, I think, is like outing the mafia.
Right.
And certainly there's been repercussions.
Yeah. Now, going back again to when you were a kid, was there, kind of fabricated stories or tales about the house that you heard when you were a child that kind of, almost making it seem like it was a haunted house or anything like that?
Well, I have to be honest, I never heard, and again, I lived on the other side of town. I never heard anything stating that this house, in fact, was haunted. I did know about the house that's in the book across the street and down a block.
Right.
Everybody knew that house. The doctor's house was haunted. But this house had a reputation of being haunted that went back like to the 1930s. And I guess over a few generations and lessened activity, it settled down. But I do say in my book that right after we bought the house, I happened to be talking to a guy at work whose father grew up right near the house. And he said, "Oh, you bought the haunted house." And I said, "What do you mean I bought the haunted house?"
Oh, no.
And he said, "Oh, yeah, that house is haunted. My father, when he was a kid, there was a time when it was empty, and it did sit empty for a couple years. And he said he and a friend went in that house when they were kids, and they were chased out of it by something.
Wow.
And that went along later with other stories that I would uncover. And so there was a reputation attached to the house. I didn't know about it prior to buying the house, but yes, in
Right.
fact, it was there. And anyway.
Yeah. Now, at first, when you spoke of the little nuances going on, the water coming on, the radio's turning on, problems with the lights, you guys kind of blame this, I guess, initially on a friendly ghost. In the back of your mind, were you worried about the possibility of it being something with more evil intentions than possibly just a passing Casper the Friendly Ghost?
I have to say I was.
Okay.
And I do talk about, as the kids when they were younger, and a few, within the year or so after we bought the house, we used to sing from an old Baptist hymnal, as they were getting ready to go to bed at night, and I'd sing some songs with them, and I always would pick, the old standards that talked about, the power of the cross and the power of the blood of Jesus and all that hardcore Christian stuff.
Right.
And I would sing it loud.
Yeah.
So it would basically permeate the house and basically, claim my authority over it.
Absolutely. Now, was there an incident that stands out in your mind as the catalyst that led to you seeking more help for what you guys were dealing with inside the house?
Well, yeah. And that really goes forward about 15, well, let's see, how many years after we bought the house? We bought the house in 88. So right around 2003, I believe it was, 2002, 2003, when my kids and the family really were coming apart at the seams.
Yeah.
Fighting and behavior and psychological problems, and two of the kids had to eventually go into be hospitalized. Two of them were hospitalized, and it was real utter chaos.
Right.
And at one point it got so bad, what really alarmed me was one day after school, and this is portrayed in one of the television programs. My son was in his bedroom, and he heard a loud pop in the corner of his room, almost like a loud burst of air that comes out of a gun that you pump up and shoots air. And he felt something whiz past his head and hit the wall next to the door, the plaster wall. And what he found was a music compact disc that shot through the air and hit the wall so hard that it shattered like you would throw a plate against a brick wall.
Wow.
And you can imagine, a compact disc, it would be a chore just to break one in half. And I'm sure if you took one out and you threw it against the side of your house, it would probably just chip or crack.
Right.
But this thing hit that plaster wall with such velocity and such force that it literally turned into shards of plastic that you could hold in your hand. And when I saw that, I said, this is really dangerous.
Yeah, that's incredible.
There's something going on here. And it almost hit my son. It was bad. I mean, it was like someone shot at him with a gun.
Yeah, that's I could definitely see that causing that could cause serious injury on it with that velocity. It's hard to, and I could see trying to put myself in your shoes, trying to rationalize that, I would certainly be on the way to calling for help after that as well. So I certainly don't blame you there. Now you speak, and I'm really intrigued by this question. You speak in the book about physically resting after a few of the confrontations with the demon. I guess explain to us the toll that the confrontations and fighting with the demon, because there's really dramatic parts in the book where you have this thing cornered in certain parts of the house, and you are verbally and physically going at it with this thing. So I guess explain to me the physical and emotional toll that you are facing after going toe-to-toe with this thing.
Yeah, and it's just so bizarre. I mean, again, this was something that would happen almost on a daily basis. And during the course of this battle, as this thing dug in and said it wasn't going to leave. And, I see so many depictions of similar stories on TV and so on, where there'll be one big dramatic episode where there's prayers and commands are made and bang and everything is fine.
Right.
That's what I thought was going to happen. When the priests first came to the house, at one point we had 2 priests, we had an Episcopalian priest, 2 Catholic priests, and a Presbyterian minister.
Jeez.
All 4 at the same time, concentrating on this thing, and that was just the beginning. This thing was so powerful, it was not going to let go. I mean, it had the ability to resist for a good while everything that was thrown at it. So it was trying, I believe, because I was the one basically there day in and day out having to deal with this thing. It was like literally living with the invisible man.
Right.
And there was one bedroom that we took all the furniture out of, and that was like, I'm telling you, like a boxing ring. and it would wait for me in that room every night.
Is this the blue? Is this the blue room you're speaking of?
No, this is not the blue room. This is another room, cat a corner from it.
Okay,
and it was the main bedroom in the house. And I would walk in the room in the evening, and the reason I knew where it would fill the room with its stench, and I would commence to make it leave that room.
Wow.
And it was always a struggle between me and it as to where it was in the room, and that it would leave that room. If I could get it to leave that room, then hopefully I could eventually get it to leave the house.
Right.
So sometimes my wife would join me. In the beginning, we would say the rosary back and forth to each other interactively. We would have candles. We would pray with each other. She would help me corner the thing. After a while, that even got too much, and it was like I would just do it myself.
Yeah.
And I would like to just stay at work, and not even go home because I knew what I had to face.
Right.
This was a long, drawn-out confrontation, and it would be. I mean, first of all, here I am. I'm confronting a supernatural being.
You're just a regular guy.
Here I am. I'm with a supernatural being, and I'm trying to tell this thing what to do. That in and of itself is mind-boggling.
It is remarkable.
But then too, I had to try to prevail, and it would go on sometimes for hours.
Jeez.
And it was just draining. It was emotionally draining. I remember one night I finally gave up. I wasn't able to get it to leave the room. And I went downstairs, and one of the priests, Father Ron, had called. And Lisa was talking to him on the phone, and she said, he knew you were in the middle of a battle, and he's calling to see how you are.
Yeah.
And I would then go into the blue room that you just referenced, and that's where I always said my nightly prayers. I would burn incense usually, blessed incense, and I would say the rosary out loud, and then there was always a series of prayers, other prayers that I was given by the church to recite as well, and that would be the end of my day. So every evening would be me having a confrontation with this thing.
Yeah, that's I can imagine the toll that would take on your mind and your body, just dealing with that every day.
I wish I could have called in these, the Ghostbusters or whoever. This was before the paranormal craze of, paranormal investigators. Really,
right.
The people who came to our house, Ryan Buell and the people from Penn State, really who started that whole thing with their show Paranormal State. Before that, there was nobody really that you could call like you can now, and some of them are legit, and some of them are charlatans.
They're few and far between the legit ones. So
and but there was like nobody to call,
right?
And except I saw the movie The Exorcist.
Not a good one to go from.
Yeah, I mean, the Catholic Church claimed to have knowledge and the ability to deal with these situations.
Yeah.
I initially had gone to the pastor of our Protestant church, and he looked at me like I was crazy and didn't really offer any substantive help.
Right. Now you briefly spoke about Father Ron. Take me through the call where you talked to him on the phone. He knew the intimate details about your home, about that first phone call where he kind of knew where everything was in the house, and you were kind of completely taken aback, because that was a captivating part for me in the book where I read that part.
I thought he was reading from some kind of a file. Like, the diocese has a file on this house. They know all about it. I mean, the detail he was giving me was amazing. And he not only was giving me detail of my house and the layout and interior of the house, and even the color of the wallpaper eventually. He was telling me about the house across the street down a block that was
Yeah.
connected
Wow.
to my house, and that was the legendary doctor's haunted house. And all this stuff he's laying out to me, it was just amazing. Now, I did not know at the time, and I really didn't know until I was actually writing the book, that he was dealing with a woman by the name of Connie Valente,
Okay.
who I talk about not until the epilogue
Right.
of my book, because I didn't know about her all the way through the battle. He would come up with this information about either what was happening, what happened in the past, or what we were going to face in the future as part of this battle. And I always thought it was him. He would say, let me think about this and pray about this and get back to you. And I thought he'd go into some kind of, religious trance or something and get the information and come back. But
He was
no,
calling Connie.
he was calling Connie on the phone.
We need to get-
and she's an amazing woman.
Yeah.
And not totally in keeping with Catholic doctrine. I mean, she believes, and this was a detriment to my book too, because I think it really turned off a large segment of the quote Christian readership, because in the end, when she lays out this thing about reincarnation, and that I in some way was an aborted child from this house, and that my mother had died in the house, and that's what she told me, and
Right.
I put that in the epilogue, that I went back and forth with my editor about should we do that or not. It's a part of the story, and I think it's a key link in pulling everything together. But at the same time, I said this is going to really turn off, because up until that point, the book it's doctrinal Christianity. Now, you may have some Protestants that have problems with Catholicism, and so on, but it's doctrinal Christianity. Once you get to that reincarnation bit, then it goes off the rails as far as theology goes. But in the end, I just thought, you know what? It's part of the story. I'm putting it in.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed it from start to finish, and I enjoyed the end just as much as I enjoyed the meat and potatoes in the middle. Now, to this day, are you and your wife a little skittish when it comes to if you find an item misplaced or you hear a noise you're not normally accustomed to? Are you guys a little gun shy when it comes to that stuff to this day? Do you kind of assume the worst if you leave your wallet somewhere you wouldn't normally leave it, you misplace it?
I have to say, well, yes, I am. It's been how many years now? 2006, so it's been 12 years now. There are times, like I'm in the process of converting this house, and I have been for almost a year now, converting this giant old house into a bed and breakfast.
Right.
So there was a lot of construction going on the second floor. We had to add a bathroom and so on. During that, there was stuff that went on in the house. I mean, I do believe, I think there's still a ghost or two in the house, a regular spirit ghost. The demonic activity ended. Have there been attempts, I think, for the demonic to re-enter? I think probably. But generally the house is peaceful. I am less skittish than I was even a couple years ago.
Right.
Not that it still isn't on my mind every day, but it's and as I said too, our family has experienced some real tragedy that has affected my wife and I personally. We lost one of our sons. A few years back.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so it has not been an easy time
Right.
for my wife and I, and I guess I should have expected that. I mean, at this point in time, I'll just tell you, I live in the house by myself.
Okay. Well,
Just leave it at that.
okay. Now, and I'm sorry that, you know, that's transpired in your life and you had to deal with that. And in the aspect of the story, in your mind, was there, I guess, a rock bottom moment where you just felt like you needed to walk away from the house to just try and regain some normalcy in your life? Was there a
Yeah, I'll tell you, Father Ron said to me at the beginning, January of 2004, I guess it was, when this all first started, that first or second phone call, he said, it was the red pill, blue pill moment, I call it. Walk away and sell the house or stay, and we'll confront this thing. And in a year, we'll know if we're making progress. Well, a year from that time had passed, and it was hell. It was absolute hell. That's when the blood was, streaming down the walls that first appeared. And I really think the thing was really, really powerful. It was doing its best to terrorize us. The kids were all screwed up, and it was claiming victory by mimicking the priests throwing holy water on the walls. It mimicked it by throwing its form of blood on the walls.
Oh, wow.
At that point in time, after we had spent a year battling this thing, it seemed to have won.
Right.
And that was a low point for me. And I really contemplated at that point in time just thrown in the towel.
Yeah, I could imagine that would be tough.
Nothing seemed to be working. It just didn't seem to be working.
Now that the kind of the climax of the book is where you have, I think you have four priests there. It's down the coal room when you have the dark entity kind of cornered in that coal room towards the end of the book. Can you take us through those last moments there, that final chapter?
Yeah.
There?
Well, after we had the exorcism, the official exorcism, when the church brought in the famed Father Labar from New York City, I felt after that this entity, this demon, called for what it is, a demon, was confined to the basement. I just had the feeling it was confined to the basement. And when I saw it pass me in the basement, its black shadow, I felt that we needed to have mass in the basement. We had never had mass in the basement. So during the mass, and it was Father Mike, my friend Carrie, the attorney, and a missionary friend from his, a Protestant minister who had been a missionary in Papua New Guinea, where apparently there's, amongst the tribes there are a lot of shamans and witch doctors, and they deal with the spiritual stuff all the time. So he had somewhat of a background. And the funny thing was, our dog, who I knew could see this thing, and even in the book, I took a picture of him because I could tell he was looking at the entity, and I'm actually standing in the midst of the entity as the dog is looking at me. But as we went to the basement to conduct the mass, the dog, who was so old by then, could no longer negotiate staircases. And he stood at the top of the basement steps and barked for me until I went. He wanted to be part of it. He always was present for Mass.
It's a good dog for you.
He would sit during Mass, and he wanted to be part of this. So I brought him downstairs, and he sat there during Mass, as he usually did. And I detail during the Mass and during the consecration, there was several loud knocks on the wall that this thing was letting us know it was in the next room. And Carrie said that he saw the black shadow in the other room during the Mass. And once the Mass was completed, the dog got up and walked into the next room, back a little corridor to the coal room. And as he usually did, in many cases, we would see him standing at the doorway to empty rooms and be barking into the rooms, and we knew the thing was in there.
Right.
So he began his barking into the coal room, so I knew that's where it was.
Okay.
And that's when I called Father Mike, and I said, it's in here, let's do it. And by that point in time, we went in and we confronted it. Father Mike, went right into his prayers against evil, and I was praying out loud, and that was the culmination and the end of the battle when this thing finally left. I thought it would be some dramatic noise, something big would happen, right. But I think this thing was so weak by then it just melted away into the floor. That was the end of it.
Okay. Now you spoke about Carrie, and I feel like I can relate to Carrie. Carrie seems like the kind of guy that wakes you up in the middle of the night and makes you go do bad things. Is that correct to assume about Carrie?
Carrie just was a funny guy.
Okay.
Just, smart, obviously, very smart attorney, so on, but just a guy that makes you laugh.
Yeah.
And was very good at telling you about funny movies and could mimic and portray characters in movies and so on. He was good. First thing he walked in that one time, and he did a scene from Ghostbusters. We came, we saw, we kicked ass. So where's this thing at? Thinking it was a joke.
Right.
No. When he first came, he later found out it was no joke.
Right.
This was for real. But initially, I tell him about our haunted house and that the priests are there. He was very skeptical.
Right. Carrie seems like the guy you've been golfing all day. You've had about 6 beers and you just want to go home and go to bed. And then he calls you at about 10:30 and he makes you go out and do bad things. So
yeah, he's a funny guy. Yeah, good guy.
So I do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Now for our last, I feel like this is in the book, so I don't think it's off limits. Our listeners, they kind of march to the beat of a different drum. They're kind of a different humored group of people. And when I tell them that you were actually told by one of the priests that one of the ways to combat this thing was to have sex with your wife, they're gonna call me a liar. But I'm gonna refer to you right now and tell them so you can back me on this. I'm not lying to them about this. He said the bond between a husband and a wife and the lovemaking, that fierce, hot lovemaking keeps these things away, or can help keep them away.
Yeah, well, as he said, evil tries to pervert everything. Evil tries to take something that God created, whether it be the love between husbands and wives or children, families, parents and children, and literally demonize it.
Sure.
I mean, and one of the central themes of this book is what took place in the house with the abortion.
Yeah.
And whatever someone's feeling is about a woman's right to abortion, what is more evil than going into the most sacred place of a woman's in the womb, that's where a child is being created, and destroy it and kill it in that ultimately safe space. I mean, that is about as evil as it can get, and I think that's why this evil entity drew that terrible practice and made it part of the house.
Yeah.
And the priest did say, and I said, this is so crazy. This thing comes into the room at night. I mean, I talk about how one night I woke up in bed and I was completely turned around in bed. And I hadn't gotten out of bed. My feet were up on my pillows and my head was down at the base of the bed. I was turned around in bed. And I said, what should we do? And he said, the bond between a husband and a wife and lovemaking and so on is blessed by God. And it's part of marriage. It's good and healthy. And a demon will not be able to experience that.
Right.
Because it's good. And the only thing they know is perversion.
Yeah.
And that is somewhat of a weapon. So it made sense.
Well, leave it to these perverts from Ohio to ask the hard-hitting questions. Now, what's the best way for our listeners to get a hold of your book or to get in touch with you, or the best avenue to experience the Demon of Brownsville Road?
Well, certainly the book is, I used to say all the time, it's at your local bookstore. It's been, going on over 4 years now. So I'm not sure if it's still stocked in Barnes and Noble. It was a big seller for a good while, but it's on Amazon. Still sells solid upper 1% of all Amazon sales.
Okay,
I'm amazed how it's a consistent seller on Amazon. It's constant, and so the interest in it has remained. It's
well deserved. It's well deserved.
And the website is demonofbrownsville.com, and it's kind of an all-inclusive website. There's a Facebook page that you can go to and see interviews that I've done. There's a link to contact me. There are links to the 3 television programs that were done. There's a very detailed Wikipedia page on the book that also links you with the television programs and gives you some more information about the book. I can always tell when one of the television programs has aired, because there's a big spike in not only sales but views of the Wikipedia page. So
okay.
It's interesting. Yeah. So I keep tabs on it.
That's good. You should be proud of it. It's a good piece. I really enjoyed it. So
the main thing I always want to end that, this book isn't just a scare me to death book, and that's what frustrates, I think, some room temperature IQ types.
Right.
I just want to be scared. I don't want to know about religion or God or anything.
You can say idiots on this show. It's fine. You can say idiots.
This is a book about good and evil. It's about God. It's about, if you're going to talk about evil and the devil, you have to talk about God. This is a book about the power of good over evil.
Yes.
And it upsets people. The references to abortion, I'm sure, upset people. The references to religion, I think it either reinforces what you believe or it calls into questions what you don't believe, and it makes some people uncomfortable. And when I'm talking about my background and my own Christianity and my own faith journey, that makes people angry because it makes them uncomfortable.
Right.
And it makes mad, and they'll write really kind of vicious stuff.
They do. Yes.
There. It's amazing how vicious people can be because they don't like you because you're a Christian or something. I mean, for goodness sakes, that's what it's about. It's about evil.
Right. I understand.
But I will say, I've had a number of young people come up to me at book signings and say, listen, I grew up with no religion. And there are a lot of young people like that. Their grandparents may have gone to church. Their parents don't, so they have never even contemplated any type of religion. And they'll say, your book has changed my worldview. my
Okay.
outlook on life.
That's great.
It has introduced me to God. And that's what I've tried to do.
Yeah, I can imagine that's the most rewarding thing for you as far as this book goes. So, all right. Well, Mr.
Okay.
Cranmer, I appreciate your time, sir. I only intended to talk to you for about 20 minutes. It lasted for about 50 minutes because you're a fantastic interview, which we always love. So we'll keep you on speed dial for the next time, sir.
Okay.
And Rob did get here. You can say hi, Rob.
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
I just peeked in. I just creeped in the back.
All right, sir. You have a good week, and we'll see you on game day. Hopefully the Bengals come out on top there. Who day?
Okay.
All right. Take care.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good interview. Good guy.
Good times.
Rob came in about halfway through.
Yeah,
He's here now.
barely.
Barely here. But this is the end of our episode, Rob. We haven't recorded the episode,
No, we have not.
but this is the end of the episode.
All right.
If that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
All right.
We're going to do a little time travel in here.
No, we're not.
Okay, never mind.
We're fake. We're
Okay.
fucking frauds, just
Whatever.
like Ed and Lorraine. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.